Hi, thanks for joining Radius Spotlight. I'm Kate Hawkins, Director of Customer Account Management, and I'm joined by Jonathan Haseler, our Divisional CEO for Fuel and EV, and Matt Kirby, our Managing Director of EV, which covers all of our 9 territories that we're in for EV across Europe. Okay, so I'm interested to just get a bit more of a flavour of what's been happening over the last year for us.
Yeah, sure, Kate. I mean, loads of things have happened in the last 12 months in terms of EV. First we've been trying to listen a lot to what our customers have been telling us, but to put some facts and figures around it, we've added 220,000 charge points to our EV network across all of Europe. So the aim of that really is try and give more convenience and flexibility to our customers. And we'll come on some of the drivers probably a little bit later in terms of what's pushing them in that direction. But we've made a big investment of time, effort, and money to grow that network estate over the last 12 months, and really pleased with the outcome. And hopefully the customers are seeing the benefit of it as well.
It's really interesting to know how much we've driven that forward. What's enabled that, Matt?
Fundamentally strong partnerships with charge point operators across Europe. So we offer a fuel and EV charge card solution and a broader product set in multiple countries across Europe. And that's underpinned by, as I said, some really strong partnerships. We've made over 20 significant partnerships this year with some marquee charge point operator brands like Milence, like Total Energies, Optimile, GridServe, Instavolt, that impact in domestic markets, but also across Europe. But fundamentally, we've made those partnerships, and that's not just to add numbers to our network. It's also to deliver a high quality, technical quality network for our customers, so they can have a reliability of charging experience across Europe.
Okay, 2 that really stood out were Source and Milence. Is there any more info around those?
Yeah, Source is a big one for the UK actually. So it's a DC predominant charge point operator that's going to be adding over 300 DC charge points across the UK and Ireland up to 2030. So a real significant network for UK operators who need fast charging. So to bring that to practical reality, you've got fleets who haven't got time to dwell over a charge and can get to over 80% charge in 15 minutes on the 150 kilowatt hour or more charge point. So strategically, it's a really key partnership for us.
So we're really focused around bringing the right charge points onto our network to make it the right proposition for the customer. Really.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, it's not just about numbers. It's about the right solution for the right type of customer.
Okay.
And then you mentioned Milence as well, Kate. I mean, that's slightly different because if you think about our customer portfolio, our customers range from a small business with a couple of vans right up to big national and international fleets of trucks and HGVs. And Milence is very much focused at that top end of the market. So our customers who are operating in Europe and have got electric HGVs, heavy goods vehicles and trucks, the Milence network is going to be perfect for them. So they've got over 250 places where customers can recharge their vehicles on a fast charge. Obviously we're seeing that transition happen at a different pace for trucks compared to some of the smaller vehicles, but like always, we're wanting to try and appeal to all aspects of our customer base here. So we've established that partnership to make sure that we're not just catering for the vans and the cars, but we're also catering for those customers that have got electric trucks.
It's a really interesting and sort of fast-moving part of the business to be in. What would you say the market dynamics at the moment? I guess you've got those differences between the types of customers. So
I think at a macro level, you've got policy most definitely driving in all markets across Europe. So regulation coming from governments to reduce CO2 emissions, and that's undoubtedly driving a major trend, driving the electrification of transport. You've got company car tax, so that's a major in our Belgian market. That's really driven the transition in the Belgian market, where you've now got over 800,000 business vehicles in the Belgian market. So you've got those macro forces. And then you've got other elements where it's not just about putting the numbers of charge points now into the ground. There are well over 1 million charge points across Europe. So the infrastructure is undoubtedly there. It comes back to what we talked about source. It's the right type of charge points in the right places for customers. And I think we're seeing, again, beyond just the numbers, it's making sure that the practical realities are being addressed. So actual customers being able to use the charge points reliably, and they've got that sense of reassurance that they're actually going to work. You've got the customer support aspect. So if a charge point for some reason doesn't work, we as a mobility provider can provide the right level of guidance and service to our customers. So that's a major trend beyond just putting charge points in the ground these days.
I think there's some other factors as well. So Matt's talked about some of the push factors around policy and taxation, which definitely are key. I think some of our customers, again, typically the bigger customers, will have an ESG agenda. So some of them may be publicly quoted, or maybe just have a relationship with the company that they are working for. If it's third-party logistics, will have ESG requirements. So sometimes we're seeing that as a driving force in terms of they're committing to a certain percentage of their fleet needing to be carbon neutral or specifically EV. So that would be another key driver.
And things like, just to build on that, last mile solutions, one of the key drivers is undoubtedly cost. So total cost of ownership around a fleet is a major profit and loss driver for customers. And we're seeing actually the total cost of ownership versus ICE vehicles, internal combustion engine vehicles versus EV. There is definitely a cost trend downwards around electrification. So yes, governments are driving it all around Europe. We're also seeing the market and actual customers drive it themselves to get the best cost possible in terms of their transport, and certainly that resonates in certain sectors in particular.
Okay, and we talked a little bit more around customers, haven't we? How has our proposition evolved over the last year?
Yeah, we'll cover that in a few different ways. One is, specific feedback we've had from customers in a number of countries around the pace of the transition. So I think it's very easy to box everybody into a camp of, you're either with traditional fuels or actually you're transitioning straight away to EV. But it's not quite as simple as that, because I think you've got some customers that will be very steadfast in wanting to stick with diesel or petrol, and they'll have their reasons for doing that. But then you'll have some other customers that will be dipping a toe in the water and might be taking a hybrid vehicle or some hybrid vehicles, or some others that want a mixed fleet where they've got some EV for last mile solutions like Matt talked about, but they've still got lots of long range vehicles that need to be diesel. So the reason for mentioning that is there isn't a one size fits all for our customers, and actually at the moment from a user perspective, having multiple different bits of plastic or multiple different cards and multiple applications on their phone isn't a great customer experience. So what we've tried to do with our Radius One card is bring all of that together. So whether that be using traditional forms of fuel, whether that be petrol, diesel, or whether that be using our EV charging, it's all done on one bit of plastic. So they've then got one invoice at the end of the month. They've got one view of all of their costs that are going through, and then one bit of plastic they're giving to their drivers irrespective of the vehicle type. So we've really tried to develop that based on the customer feedback that we've had, and so far we're getting some positive noises from the market and from our customer base, and looking to roll that out to all of the countries over time that we operate in.
I think the really key bit there is sort of having both sides. Like you mentioned, customers aren't going at once, are they? So being able to manage both the fuel stations that their drivers might need to utilise, as well as what EV chargers are available for those other vehicles that they've moved.
Yeah, just to build on what Jonathan said, we've got two key aspects of our proposition that do exactly that. It brings together sort of wet fuel aspect and brings together with our EV aspect. So we have a digital portal called Velocity, where customers can do plenty of things, but one of them is pick up their invoices, for example, and any fuel transactions and any EV transactions are all on one invoice on one portal, for example. So they can manage that and manage their cards, for example, on one portal. And then we launched a few weeks ago, we launched one e-route, so it's Radius e-route tool, where a customer can plot where they want to go, either on a traditional petrol fuel station, or they can see the EV charge points all in one application or one web portal. So we're bringing together these worlds for the ease of our customers. They can go to one place and access the information they need at that time.
Yeah, it's an exciting place to be with all the changes that keep on moving forward. Where do we think the next step is?
I think what we're trying to do is make sure that where we're going is backed by what our customers need. So, we want to, whenever the customer makes that transition to EV, we want to be there and ready with the right solution. So if you take our on-road solution, which in effect will be replacing their fuel card usage over time, we want to make sure we continue to build out our network offering so that we can offer customers convenience in terms of charging where they need to. But back to the point Matt's made a couple of times, given their business-to-business customers, that isn't every single charge point across every single country. It's making sure that they're on, key routes and key roads and key areas where there's, business and conurbations. So building out that network is really key. And then I think, listening to what other services and requirements our customers have, whether that be for, home charging or depot charging or the software that they need to be able to monitor and manage all of that, then we also want to be able to provide them with those solutions too.
So partnerships are a really large part of our growth this year. How does that fall into the plans for next year?
Yeah, accelerating the number of partnerships we have this financial year is something we're very much aiming to do. We'd like to grow our overall network, but we'd also like to respond to our specific customer needs around where they charge, when they charge, and what type of charges that they need access to. So, and again, that's partly growing the network, but also finding important sites in important areas in all countries we operate in Europe for our customers. Another example is, we talked there briefly around eRoute, the routing tool, and Jonathan mentioned around using plastic. Well, some customers don't want to use plastic, and in fact some charge point operators are not equipped for plastic RFID cards. So one of the next technical things we're working on is to be able to start and stop a charge actually through our application. So on eRoute, you'll be able to find a charge point and actually plug in and start and stop all through one app. It's just a small taste of what we're working on that'll be coming up in the next few months. I think secondly as well, providing more and more integrated data to our customers to enable them to manage their fleets and manage their business. So we're talking very much today around public charging and customers using a public roaming network to charge their vehicles. But customers also have the option to have charge points at their depots and charge points at their employees' homes, for example. And fleet managers tell us that they want to be able to see the full estate across their fleets, whether they charge publicly, whether they charge at their own depot, or whether they charge at home. So one of the things we're working on are bringing together all of the data for the charging and all of the data around any ICE vehicles that they have, so that our customers can see all of that in one place to fundamentally manage their fleet better.
It's a really exciting space for both our partners and obviously our customers to get the right solution. Thank you very much, Jonathan and Matt, for joining me today, and thanks for everyone for joining into Radius Spotlight.